Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 4 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Lazy mechanic attempts to intimidate female supervisor, faces loudspeaker consequences, hearing her constant yelling all day, ultimately making his job tougher. The second story. Knowledgeable 18-year-old, passionate about cars, confronted a dismissive dealer. Listing Jeep issues and pricing proof, he left after dealer's disbelief. The third story. Manager requested updates, so I bombarded her inbox and radio with data for 3 hours until she started ignoring me. On to the first story. Just Page Pedro. I work in a general factory setting on the east coast of the US. My job is to supervise a machine that wraps product to be packed and shipped out and away from the factory. Above my position are the line supervisors, who keep track of paperwork trails for stuff being taken to and from the product lines. This story is centered on one of these people, who we will call Mary, as well as a certain member of the mechanical department, who I shall name Pedro. Pedro would do his job by doing rounds and looking for broken machines marked by operators with a helpful big red sign reading broken down, troubleshoot, then put the sign away, and start the machine back up. No one at the time had any issues with his work, and he never spoke much to my other coworkers at all. The machines ran as well as possible, and he gets to relax in a nice furnished mechanic room/workshop. Win-win. Mary perhaps wasn't the most popular supervisor, but she always got her work done at the end of the day on time. She had been with the company a long time, think 20 plus years with little to no issues by upper management. However, this changed when Mary was called into a meeting with plant management. Our big boss explained that Pedro has been complaining quite often that her operators have been lazy and delegating problems to him when they could fix the problems themselves. In Pedro's defense, he could have been 100% correct in his accusations. What he should have done, though, was go to Mary instead of the plant bosses. She had every power to fix that issue and, as a bonus, yell at someone. Now, by going over Mary's head, Pedro had made her look bad when her record was otherwise clean. With the management fed up with his constant complaining, they made some rule changes in an attempt to shut him up. The assembled meeting tells Mary that her operators are no longer allowed to use the red signs on machines. Mary quickly realizes this would create a problem in which Pedro would no longer know what exactly is broken. When she asks what can be done to offset this, they tell her something that they would come to regret. Just make sure to stay on top of the problem by using the page system whenever you need a mechanic. Now, these people call it a page system, but in reality it was an enormous overhead speaker system that the factory would use to communicate with other lines. The volume was rather impressive. It had to be in order for people to hear over the wrappers. These speakers ran to every room in the factory, including the plant manager's office, as well as the mechanical workshop. Mary gathers her crew around, tells them the news, and asks for any problem, to be brought to her. She then set to work using the loudspeakers to announce whenever she could every single issue possible to Page Pedro. "Pedro, please come to line X," was now heard 5 to 6 times an hour, when before it maybe happened once or twice every 3. This was how most people came to learn about the whole debacle, as no one could escape the loud A speaker system going off at a ridiculous rate. Wrap going off the eye? Call Pedro. Roller is loose? Get Pedro over here. Belt stuck tight? Looks like a job for Pedro. After about a week and some odd days, Mary is approached by the same supervisor as before. With no rules technically broken, she does not get punished. They do ask her to tone down on the pages. Pedro approaches Mary in private and asks her to ignore the new rule about the red signs. Remember when Mary pointed out that non-use of the signs would be a big problem? Now this forced the mechanics to track down individual operators and ask what was wrong with the machines. This easily almost doubled the time Pedro used to spend on the signs. Whether Mary would listen to him would depend on her mood. It seems that no one survived this loud "Pedro, please come to line X" and other announcements. So Pedro decided to complain to the upper management about the lazy operators, and that led to this loud chaos. Maybe next time he'll decide to discuss the problems with Mary instead of giving her a bad name in front of the management. I think Mary was the real conductor of this show. Her decision to call Pedro on every problem was both brilliant and defiantly hilarious. All employees had a chance to show how creative they were in finding problems. But it was a real sound apocalypse in the factory. Maybe it was their way of helping Pedro improve his communication with his coworkers? Or maybe Mary became the queen of talking on the phone. Who knows? Maybe it was the most fun week at that factory thanks to Pedro. The next story is, won't negotiate with an 18-year-old, won't make a sale. Background info. This happened 2 years ago. I won't go into detail because this was a locally owned lot, and I do not wish to expose my hometown. It was in Kentucky. I was 18 years old once, nice and brisky Kentucky September, and I was in the market to purchase a used car for college, specifically a Jeep TJSE with the 5-speed. upgraded OEM manifold instead of the problematic tubular one, full doors in a factory or suitable quality aftermarket hardtop. I had done my research. I knew what I was looking for, what problems the TJs I was looking at had, where to look for issues, and what they were selling for. I knew those Jeeps front, back, and sideways, to include being able to identify them within a 10-year span from the taillights on the highway in the dark. I've been wrenching on cars since I was 14, and I know my way around the undercarriage and engine bay of a vehicle. I was cruising around the town, and I spotted a good-looking Jeep in red, bone stock with the options I wanted. Called my grandfather, who's my go-to take a look at this in case I miss something guy for this kind of thing, and picked him up to take a look at it. It had some problems, but nothing too bad. Nothing out of the ordinary for a four-wheel drive vehicle of this Jeep's age. Took a test drive, no problems, let's get to talking. Now this was a 2001 Jeep with 103k miles, and it was literally the lowest optioned edition they made. No automatic transmission, no engine upgrade, regular axles, whole nine was base model. Their asking price was $11,500. Hell no, this was a $6,000 car all day, but nobody in their right mind would pay $11.5k for it. So I put on my negotiation pants and started trying to work the salesman down to a price that I was satisfied with. Dude wouldn't even talk to me. He was apparently only satisfied with trying to sell to my grandfather, who to his credit just pointed to me and told the guy I was the one to talk to. After a few back and forths without having my comments heard, I realized that I was getting nowhere, and we bowed out gracefully. I came back alone the next day to negotiate one-on-one. At this point, the Jeep is not on the lot. Apparently, it was refusing to turn over due to an electrical gremlin. No big deal, issue I was expecting to deal with, but that's more money and time I would have to sink into the thing, so it was more imperative I negotiate hard and fair. Walked onto the lot, found the same salesman, and I cut right to the chase. Me, I can't do 11.5 for this. What can you do to work with me? Sales, well, I can give you a huge discount. This Jeep is worth what we're asking. M, Kelley Blue Book says this Jeep is in better condition is worth $6,000. S, nobody in this industry uses Kelley Blue Book. We all use NADA, and that's what we base our prices on. M, okay, NADA says that you shouldn't have paid a dime more than $4,500 for this Jeep, and should have it priced at $6,500 to $7,000. Check this morning. S, well, those are prices for Jeeps in worse condition than this one is. M, so you're overlooking the cracked hardtop, the non-functioning rear wiper, the dent in the tub where someone dropped something on it, the rust in the rockers, the 6 months or one good rain from freezing rear gate hinges, the whistling door frame, and the leak on the passenger side cowl. Not to mention the fact that it doesn't even start right now. Look, sir, I can give you $6K today. That's a fair price for you and for me. If you based your buying on NADA like you said you did, you can either work with me, or I walk and never set foot on your lot again. Guy thought he called my bluff. Told me to walk off the lot because he couldn't follow the pricing he said he followed. So I did. I got back in my junky hand-me-down truck that ran like a top because of my own work on it, drove off the lot and didn't come back. The lot closed for good about a half a year later and no one bought the car from him. Edit. That's why I check all the available major valuation resources, as well as the market values with actual sellers in the area for similar items, while I'm having my morning coffee before heading out to haggle on any remotely big purchase. Someone tries to pull that trick on me, I can usually fact-check them on the spot and call them on any BS. I would argue, by the way, that the old uncomfortable silence is the oldest negotiating tactic in the book. Generally speaking, people don't like uncomfortable silences, so a lot of people will keep tacking on value to their offers to fill the void. That's one of the first tricks I learned. When you make an offer, let it stand, and keep your yap shut until you get a legitimate counteroffer. Then counter that if you wish. I'm a hard A negotiator, but I do my best to be fair. This was a bit of an exception because the guy ignored me, then tried to take advantage of me by saying the Jeep was in better condition than it obviously to me actually was. And even then I did give a fair offer, with a profit margin for the company, based on the metric he claimed to use for buying and selling. Edit 2, which is exactly what happened. KBB valued the Jeep at $6K in good condition. NADA had the dealer purchase value at $4,500, and typical sale value at $6,500 to $7,000. Overpricing and lying to customers on condition versus pricing isn't a business strategy I would expect to be successful for very long. So the seller decided that you, as an 18-year-old, could not be negotiated with. Well, he decided not to sell the Jeep himself. Perhaps he thought you came to the lot for the last photo shoot before getting your learner's permit, but you impressed him with your expertise and negotiation skills. I'm sorry he didn't realize that you know better than most of his clients. As the joke goes, displease a young customer and you lose the sale. That's why he missed his chance. You really know your stuff and had your own price for that car. If the seller didn't want to hear you, you were justified in walking out. Even the car was afraid of him. So unfortunately, it was a losing game for him. He refused to make a real deal. Well, let him learn from your experience and remember to check NADA and other sources before his next sale. The third story is, Manager wants to handle everything themselves. I work for a large company in a factory setting. I essentially have 3 managers. My boss is the manager for product quality. The 2 above her run the whole factory split between them. Me equals me. Boss equals my boss. Manager equals the only factory manager we have for now. This all starts about 2 weeks ago. We lost one of our managers because he got promoted. So now we only have manager to do the work of 2 people. The initial days were good. She was still learning from the supervisors below her on how to run the new half of the building. She had never dealt with anything when her partner was here. She liked to have a firm grasp of the processes and find ways to drive more productivity for less labor. Not in the bad way, usually. Cue the issue. She spent 2 days, half our work week, learning before she decided that she knew it all and could run everything from wherever she was in the building. This turned into blaming me and my team for the shortcomings of her associates. Just because the quality team has final say on a lot of things does not make us more powerful than her. She has the ability to ignore us and make her own calls. This ability is one she started to overuse, and I nearly couldn't take it anymore. After 3 verbal conflicts between manager blaming me for things that I have zero control over, she goes to boss to have me reprimanded. Whatever rand or deflation of stress and anger manager gave to boss made no sense to her, so she came to get my side and put together a full picture. After reading my 2 weeks of notes about the manager disregarding the information I was trying to give her and talking down to me like I was a child, I'm 2 feet taller than her, I explained that it's not my place to contradict her, but it is my job to dive into problems and find solutions to give the manager. My boss agrees that I've been doing everything 100% correctly after examining both testimonies and all the open communications and out-factory communication boards. After my boss tells manager that I'm genuinely trying to aid her judgment and find ways to solve her problems, she takes a deeper dive in the hating me department. Right after the talk from my boss, the manager calls me out over the factory radio 3 times within an hour about communication, everything I do to her 100% of the time. Cue malicious compliance. In the last 6 hours of my 12-hour shift, I began adding all information regarding my work and my employees' work to our group chat so everyone can have 100% visibility on what I'm doing and how she responds. Every 5 to 10 minutes for 3 hours I did this. Post in the group chat, verbally call out over the radio with the same information, ask if she wanted me to do anything else. After the 3 he marks, she called me on the radio and said that's enough, and freed me from the act of telling her everything I was doing. Manager has not spoken to me since. About to go in for day 2. Wish me luck. You just wanted me to give the manager full visibility into what you were doing, and he thought it was too much information for him. I think he realizes now that detailed information about your every move can be a little too tiring. But you're doing your job the right way and showing your sense of humor in the process. Good luck on your second day, and may it be just as comical and more productive. I hope you love these stories. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching and have a good day.